Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Off-Grid Knives Stinger XL, which is definitely an XL size knife with a really cool spear point grind. It comes in a couple of different configurations. We have this coyote and gray wash configuration, or you can also get black G10 and black wash blade if you want to. Definitely a big boy. But it doesn't have necessarily an XL price tag, which we'll talk about here in just a sec. This should be available. I will link it right down below so you guys can go and check it out if you want to. It does help my channel to use my links, but that's up to you. Thank you so much to Off-Grid Knives for sending these in for me to take a look at. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. Overall length of the Stinger XL is coming in at a little over, almost a little bit more. Is that right? No, it's exactly 9¼ inches. Blade length, exactly 4 inches. Cutting edge, also exactly 4 inches. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2? I think we can see here now, this is definitely a big knife. And when I say XL, I don't mean like the size of the Cold Steel Formax or the Cold Steel Espada XL. I mean a normal XL size knife, right? If we're saying that 8 inches is kind of, that's where I kind of say is about, you know, where a full size knife starts. And then like around the 7 to 7.5 inch mark is kind of medium sized, and you know, anything below 6¼ 6.5 I'd call smaller. Of course, you might have your own definitions of that, but when something is quite a ways over 9 inches, I definitely refer to it as XL. Just a couple more. How about up against the Demco AD 20.5? Let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. I think this is probably giving you guys a pretty good idea. I don't know why, but we'll do it up against the Bug Out here real quick. How about some larger knives that are around the same size? How about up against the Microtech SOCOM Elite? Yeah. That's a good one for perspective. How about up against the Hinder XM24? Also a really good one. I think that's going to surprise a lot of people. The Stinger XL absolutely makes me think of kind of a, it's not a budget knife, but definitely a more budget-friendly Hinderer, you know, XM24. Since we're at an angle here, I'll put the XM24 on top because the one that's on bottom tends to look larger. But you can see here, this is definitely almost exactly the same size. It's got a little more cutting edge, but yeah, it's this is a big knife for sure. All right, so how's the action on this guy? Oh, spectacular, spectacular. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the blade is so big, but it's also due to the execution here. These, to my knowledge, are still made by Bestex. We have very, very good execution, and both of them, by the way, are like that. The flipper tab allows you to get maximum leverage and really, you know, put the power through to the flip. Very easy to disengage, no double clutch. And despite it being a big, heavy blade, honestly, I could sit here and flip this thing all day, and it would never tire me out. It's really nice to see that executed so well. How about carry profile? Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. You can see here, it is definitely a thick knife. I mean, I'll put it up against the XM24, which is also thick. You can see here, we're looking at a hefty knife for sure. Not an insane brick, but a hefty knife. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. Gosh, these grid lines, you guys can't see them, but the grid lines on my camera help. I don't know why I wasn't doing that for, you know, the last 4 years. Yeah, it's gonna be big, right? Definitely longer than both the PM2 and Para 3, and even in some places it matches the height of that hump, or at least approaches it very closely, so you're gonna notice it, right? It's a lot of knife to dedicate to, but certainly nothing insane, at least not, you know, in my opinion. Let's take a look at the inside. I believe there is some milling that's intended for weight reduction. Can we see it? Yeah, you can see it in there. A couple of pockets. So that's, you know, that was probably a good move. Where's my scale? There it is. It's hiding from me. Okay, we need to get to, oh my God, ounces. Okay, so steel liners, G10. And what are we looking at for the blade? We're looking at 154 cm. Not that that's going to affect the weight, but that's what you're looking at there. Oh, wow, it weighs nothing. Amazing. Hold on a second. What is going on here? Scale. Is it finally kicked the bucket? Come on, buddy. You got more in ya. Let's go. Let's go. There we go. 7.9 ounces is what this guy weighs. So it is not a balanced, right? We're not anywhere near the ounce and inch ratio. But your actual, speaking of balance, where is the balance? It's more towards the butt than you might think, right? I think it's because there's such a large swedge in the blade. But it is close to this area. I'd like it to be more here, but you're gonna notice the butt feels a little bit more heavy. So it does feel heavy. Not only is it heavy, but it is also noticeably heavy. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. The pivot is a T8. The body screws are also a T8. Thank you very much. That's awesome. Off-Grid Knives always does a good job with that. We have 3 T6 screws for the filler tab and 3 T6 screws for the pocket clip, which is a lot of screws for the clip. I don't know why we're doing 3, but okay. It's definitely not gonna come out. But still, taking this apart, you know, even though you will have to, I believe those screws go into the liner, so you will have to remove, if you want to take it completely apart, you'll have to remove the pocket clip from the scale. Still what I call just pretty darn close to minimal hardware. And most of the adjustment heads are gonna be the larger side, so that's pretty good. Make sure you have quality tools and a place to put your hardware, and you should be good to go. Is there anything else? Oh, blade stock thickness. Of course, we do need to measure blade stock thickness. I don't think, even though this is an XM24 sized knife, I don't think we have an XM24 sized blade. I'm gonna guess this is, in fact, I think I measured it once, 155. Yeah, there it is right there. I think it says 156 and there's just a smudge on it. So, still thick though, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and move into the meat and potatoes here. This is a good looking knife, and I understand that that is, you know, kind of, well, it's completely subjective, but I like the lines on this. This looks like a folding broadsword, and while this blade shape doesn't necessarily make, well, it definitely doesn't make all tasks easier, it is nice to look at. The lines here, we have nice classic, you know, sort of outdoorsy knife lines. I'm just gonna keep this one on the table because it's hard to keep them both there. We have nothing really overly decorative going on except for these 3 lines here, which is nice. It just kind of breaks it up a little bit. But this G10 is finished really well. It's not just a flat piece of G10. It's nicely contoured. And the edges, there's so much chamfering, right? This is so comfortable to hold on to. And it's not just because the handle is big. It's not just because it fills the hand. And it's not just because it is contoured and chamfered in the right ways. It's because this pocket clip did not try to be something that it didn't need to be. A lot of times we see, you know, on knives that are big but still quite a bit smaller, we see these just absolutely gargantuan clips, and I don't understand, right? You know, some people are gonna say, well, it's bigger and it helps hold in my pants. I don't know. For me, I've found I don't need a gigantic long clip. I need something that's anywhere from short to kind of medium length, but I want it, if it's going to curve up and have a bill, I want it to be more towards the back of my hand instead of in the middle. That makes it really uncomfortable. This, I barely even notice this. This is so comfortable, and you've got all this freedom to move around, and that clip, the bill is nice and shallow. It's still ramped, right? It's still gonna work, but it's nice and shallow and it's short. This is essentially a perfect clip. The only thing that's weird is that it has 3 screws instead of 2, but okay. Deep carry, not that deep carry is just, you know, universally better than anything else, right? Not shallow carry, let's put it that way. Nice, you know, drop down and then slight curvature up to this bill here and round it out. Not doing anything ultra special, not like a totally unique looking clip, but functionally it is excellent. And it works perfectly with this knife considering how much it costs. So yeah, this is wonderful. Ergonomics on this thing are great. Access to that liner lock is great. You can do, you know, just a one-handed sort of release of the lock, let the flipper tab come down on your thumb, then turn it sideways, and it'll fall. Not guillotine fast, but controlled, right? You saw that there. Just sort of turn it and it falls into the closed position, making it real easy to almost absent-mindedly do that, right? Your brain is gonna, it should be more focused on the task at hand, so you're devoting very little brain power to the manipulation of your knife, and that's something that I always appreciate. Really awesome, really like that. Let's talk about this blade.
Off-Grid's gray wash is one of my favorite. Man, I'm sick of black wash, and I mean, it's cool. Like, this is cool. You know, if you like the all black one, it's fine. See a lot of black wash. See a lot of satin finishes, right? The gray wash, which just looks like concrete, is awesome. And this will inevitably wear. This will only look cooler as time goes on, because as you mark it up, everything is just gonna blend in with this finish here. I love how this, it just looks like smooth concrete. I love it. And oh my God, the grind is so cool. This up here is not sharp. This is an unsharpened swedge, right? And the idea here is that this blade shape will make it excel, you know, a little bit more at puncture tasks. The downside here is because, you know, the thickest part of the blade kind of runs down the center for quite a while until it actually starts to taper. Let's see if we can capture where it starts to taper off, somewhere in here. This is where the blade actually tapers down to the final cutting bevel, and as a result, it is pretty thick behind the edge. Can it still slice? Can it still cut? Yes, you can. I mean, you can go ahead and break down your cardboard boxes and stuff like that. Just sort of, you know, your regular day-to-day tasks will be fine. I think some people might find it a little more awkward as the materials get more dense, right? If you're cutting into thick rubber, wood, things like that, it might get a little weirder. It's still a plenty robust blade. It's also made out of 154 cm, which I think is one of the best blade steels in this price range that you can get. And frankly, I think it's one of the best compositions out there, period. It's stainless, holds a reasonable edge, is reasonably tough, and is amazingly simple to touch up and sharpen, which is, you know, on a knife like this, that's what you want, right? Incredibly well-balanced steel, really good stuff. We've got jimping out here that carries out to a reasonable spot. And, you know, all in all, we have a blade that is, you know, fairly multi-purpose, will definitely excel at more of your puncture tasks, and looks freaking awesome. I love this grind. I think it looks amazing, and I'm honestly absolutely shocked that we don't see stuff like this more often in the knife world. And by the way, that grind does go all the way out perfectly to the tip, and they did sharpen it. Instead of rounding this off like we so often see, no, it actually does come to a sharp point. You can see that line comes right out and touches that sharpened bevel right there. That's exactly how this should look if one side is going to be unsharpened. It's perfect. Both knives are an excellent example of this, right? You can see that line comes right out to the top there so that we can still get a tip. Drives me absolutely nuts when we have a bayonet or a spear grind and it comes perfectly to the top and that unsharpened portion just rounds over the tip. And it's like, well, why? The tip should be sharp, right? Anyways, going on a tangent. All right. Moving back here, we do have a filler tab, which is going to bother some people. It shows a lot more, of course, on this Coyote G10 version. On the black version, you can barely notice that it's there because everything is black. But it does allow the pocket clip to be recessed into the G10, which means no wiggle. Certainly, that is reinforced by the fact that there's 3 screws holding it in. But okay, lefties, you can still enjoy this. It is incredibly easy to manipulate. I am a right-hand dominant person, and I have no problem whatsoever manipulating this thing and getting it to do essentially the exact same thing that it does with my right hand. So, you know, it's a righty liner, but you should be okay. We do have a stop pin that is located in the classic position. This is flat, no shouldering, it doesn't necessarily need it. It does run on bearings, I think that's probably obvious. No blade play up, down, left, or right. We have no lock stick. We have no double clutch, perfectly smooth and consistent in here, and nice click. Let's see if this one's, the detent feels exactly the same. Feels exactly the same. Centering on this guy is pretty darn close. It's probably from me flipping it, but maybe not. This guy is also kind of, is it off or is it my eyes? Maybe just barely. Both of these can probably be adjusted to pull the blade back to centered. I don't want to judge it too much, but I still do expect, I mean, considering, you know, no matter where you are in the knife world as far as like price goes, we should be expecting perfectly centered blades even on knives that cost $30, right? So while it is annoying to get a knife that is off center from the factory, Usually this is something that you can adjust yourself. Your mileage may vary. So how much does this knife cost? Well, it's $97, and considering, you know, what it is and its general competition out there, I really don't have much of a problem with it. It is not a budget knife, but it's not quite in the realm of what I would consider to be expensive. It's right there between that 75 and 120. Well, obviously it's $100, right? 100 is right between 75 and 125, but it's right there, right? Where we get a lot of weird stuff, right? You know, it's one of those weird price ranges where you don't always feel like you're getting everything for your money. It's like if I spend a little bit more, I get a lot more. And if I spend a little bit less, I get almost exactly the same stuff. Am I right? Does anybody else feel that way about the $100 territory? This is one of those knives where you feel like you're getting $100 worth of knife. And it not only is it cool to look at, not only is it kind of a conversation piece. I mean, anybody who's like interested in knives, if you get this knife out, they're gonna go, dude, let me see that. That's awesome. It's functional, right? I mean, the blade geometry is not perfect. It's pretty thick, right? So some people are gonna get hung up processing thick material for long periods of time, but it's cool. And you know, it's a big knife and it's a heavy knife, but it's one of those that's still like, if you like those, if you like big knives, you can adjust to this. If you are outside working in heavy duty pants, right? Or maybe you're not, right? But you just like big knives. This is one that is, you know, relatively easy to adjust to, I think, versus a lot of other big, crazy, chunky XL knives out there. Yeah, I do recommend this knife. I think it's really cool, and one of these I will give away, at least. I gotta be honest, I am really tempted to keep one. This guy right here in particular. But if you're wondering, I do giveaways on my live streams and stuff like that. So that's generally when you want to be watching out for that. But these are really cool, and I am definitely tempted to keep one. Like I said, you can pick these up by using the links in the description as long as they are still available, so make sure you check those out down there. Thank you again so much to Off Grid Knives for sending these in for me to take a look at. These will be going in my most recommended knives playlist, which you can check out if you want to see what else I recommend. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.